Hi, I'm Cote DePablo.
I'm sorry, who are you?
I'm Cote DePablo.
You're fantastic is what you are. I'm Michael Weatherly, and I'm just happy to be here.
And this is Off Duty. Yeah.
When I think of the words off and duty, and then you put them together, but off is a mosquito repellent spray.
Right.
And duty can be a pile of poo-poo, or it can be, if we spell it correctly, duty, your job.
Right. You're bound to something. Duteous.
Duty, yes. Well, we are going to be discussing this episode, season 3 of episode 16 of the NCIS, and it's called Family Secret.
We have a very special guest today. Do you want to tell us who that is?
We have Rocky Carroll coming on the show, which is more than special because Rocky and I have known each other really through the stars, through the universe, because
when did you meet Rocky?
I met him on the show, but we have the same birthday.
Oh.
Yeah, Rocky and I and Kevin Bacon, we're all triplets. We're just all born on the same.
You guys have so many similarities.
We're footloose and fancy free. Welcome to Off Duty, an NCIS Rewatch podcast. Today on the show, Season 3, Episode 16, Family Secret. An ambulance ignites and explodes after picking up the body said to be that of a Marine Lance Corporal who died due to a car wreck. Gibbs and company investigate, partly to determine the identity of the body. Can I tell you, I'm going to do what we like to do here on the Off Duty. I'm going to do a little flashback.
Flashback.
I do a flashback. Okay.
Do a flashback.
At the time of this episode's release on Friday. No, it wasn't Friday. It was February 28th. It was always a Tuesday when our show came out. It was
always a Tuesday date. Come on now, you know that.
7 Central. February 28th, 2006. Here's what happened. A New Jersey company is accused of harvesting body parts from New York funeral homes for transplants. What the hey? An estimated 12,000 people received the body parts.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. Aaron Carter released his third and final compilation album. Too good to be true. Yeah, I don't know anything about that, but I do know that the world's population at that time was 6.5 billion, and I think we're tipping 8 billion now, aren't we?
You're kidding me.
No, I think that's true.
Oh my God. Well, that's a lot of billions.
We're hurtling towards 10 billion. It's very exciting to do these little look backs. But as I was saying to you in our little pregame before, this is the first time that I had a little moment. And I'm very good at contextualizing this show and the characters and understanding why you have to have certain people behave a certain way so that we can make fun of people's behavior. And I know that I am the carrot in front of the donkey for that many times. But I cringed at a couple of things that I was doing.
You really think Lance Corporal Danforth picked his own death?
You had a better theory? Actually, we do, Tony.
And also some of the wardrobe choices. Again, I understood why Tony DiNozzo would be acting that way and dressing like that. But I did
You're so into the wardrobe, it's not even funny, but I love those pants and how like straight and sort of like slightly wide they are. They're really cute, and I kept on thinking like you looked like an 8-year-old does. Like, you know, that's how cute you looked, like playing basketball. Because of the pants, not because of anything you were doing. Like, you weren't doing anything particularly cute. You were playing basketball. But the wardrobe made you look, like, particularly adorable. And I'm not sure if that was intentional or if that was just like, oh, yeah, no, that's the way. I don't know.
Well, he's such a dork. DiNozzo's such a dork. Boss, I know what you're saying, and I have to agree with you. Like all that stuff. I'm just like, oh, Jesus. All right. I'm going to give you an episode synopsis.
No, wait, can I say something? Because at one point we are We're not there, actually. Thank God.
Be kind. I'm a little sensitive today. Just be kind.
No.
Okay,
It's got
all right.
nothing to do with you. I told you
I love
right
you.
when
I
the
love you
cameras
so
went
much.
off. No. I love you so much, but I really love that beard. It makes you look very morsely, like a morsel. Morsely. That's a good word. Anyway, so I will say there's a scene where Polly Perrette has like a freaking monologue.
Accident or not an accident? That is the question. Our first player, an innocent differential housing bolt that is rubbing and straining on the molecular bonds of our bolt.
All of it is like this gibberish. And I just remember watching and just kind of, stay like just glued in just awe and amazement at like what just came out of her mouth with such ease. And I was like, oh my God, it made me think about what John Cryer was saying. Like, you guys were doing that particular genre very well. And then I thought, well, did we? And then all of a sudden I watched the show and I see Abby Sciuto, Polly Perrette doing that. And I just went, holy crap, she was so great,
So
And
good.
that particular scene, like, it's just so effortless and so on the money and delivering all of that crazy exposition. Because I thought you and Sean were like the kings of that. And all of a sudden I watched this and I was like, oh, Booyakasha, schooled. I was like, that's she was so on it.
We are going to get into this episode and we're going to talk about it a little bit more. But can I give you the synopsis of today's episode?
Yes, please do.
The team investigates when an ambulance carrying the body of Maureen, who recently died, explodes without warning. However, things take a turn when Ducky confirms that the DNA lifted from the body doesn't match the dead Maureen, resulting in the team launching an investigation as to who could have been responsible for the ambulance's explosion and the reasons behind it.
Well, you know what the funny thing is? There are very few moments that you get to see character stuff unveil where you really get to see sort of like who these people are from like a value standpoint,
Huh.
And this is a key episode for me when it comes to Gibbs, because he does
Yes.
something that is totally not legal within the legal spectrum of things.
He
But it
opens
is
that
so
evidence bag. Yeah.
Oh, not only did he mess with and tampered with, evidence, but he did it for all the right reasons. And it's so cool that the actual episode walks you through this and it unveils all of this really kind of heavy duty complexity as to what's wrong and what's right, and then what you think it's wrong versus what you think it's right. And at the end, he makes this choice to do the right thing, which is totally wrong, but he does it for a good reason. And it left me thinking about it for just an instant. And it's not like you and I are watching NCIS reruns all the time, but when I do, I kind of hone in and I'm like, oh, I wonder what this is. And I completely forget what the episode was about. And then towards the end of it, I was just like, oh, isn't that such a nugget of character development for the beloved character of Gibbs? Like, isn't that such a great moment that is so much about, for a guy that's very much structured and like, we must do the right thing, that he does the wrong thing for the right reasons.
Well, okay,
because
so
because that's who he is. And inevitably, I was like, oh, I loved him.
I'll walk you through another right thing for the wrong reasons. For Jenny Shepard to be sitting at his desk, getting information from us, and then he walks in and he gets his little undershorts in a twist and he's like, oh, this is my team. And then he goes up to Jenny's office and sits behind her desk and he's like,
Dramatic, but duly noted, Agent Gibbs. I get it.
how do you like it when someone sits behind your desk? Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Tibbs. You are not Mr. Tibbs. Sidney Poitier is
Nibs.
Mr. Tibbs. You're
Mr.
Mr.
Nibs.
Gibbs. And if the director of NCIS wants to sit behind your desk, she can sit anywhere she wants in that thing. She's
yes,
the director of NCIS.
And you're absolutely correct. But I do think
He's
it
a
has to do
spurned
with
lover. He's a spurned,
That's
jealous
exactly
lover.
it. I was just going to say the same thing. I think at that moment really is not about like power positions within the NCIS, world, whatever the agency is. But I really think at that moment it's a personal FU. Like, you did this to me, and watch what I'm going to do to you. And it's not at all about like NCIS dynamics, within the power, But I do
But
think
so-
it has to do with their relationship. And then when he brings the steak and he brings the thing and they sit down and they have that moment, it's
Weird.
such a great, it's weird, but it's kind of earned, right? And I have to say that I really enjoyed Lauren Holly in this episode.
Her hair
Because-
was fantastic. She looked
Oh,
like
it
the
was
heat miser. She looked like the
like
heat
a
miser
tiny
from those
little-
old.
Like a
Mr.
tiny little
Heat
elf that
Miser.
was delicious with red.
It looked
was
like
just,
it looked like it was actually on fire.
yeah.
Sometimes.
But I thought it was a really good episode for her too. It showed her strength. It showed her kind of going like, okay, boo-hoo, really, you're going to get mad at this. Okay, noted. It's fine. It's fine. And then it showed her kind of being stern when she had to be and calling him when you know, and
She's
I thought it
growing
was
into it a little bit. She's growing into the part.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And I thought that
Okay.
was kind of fun.
So peel this onion with me a little bit if we can find these corollary or corollary if you're British. DiNozzo is on McGee's computer in the beginning. There is an
Oh my God.
invasion of McGee's space.
Who is this?
Well, it's definitely not Agent Larson.
Gotta be his sister.
Why?
You kidding? This girl's way out of McGeek's league.
In the same way that Shepard invades Gibbs' space and then Gibbs invades Shepard's space, in the same way that we're crossing a lot of boundaries and lines and there's a lot of impropriety. There's a lot of doing the right thing. Even the two paramedics in the very beginning are having a banter back and forth where he's like, well, what should I do? Should I do the right thing? It's like you really feel that it wasn't written by a team of writers. You feel like it was written by a writer. Do you know what I'm saying? It wasn't some gang-banged plot.
no,
where-
I
where
do
they
agree
just,
with
like-
you because they're
because
really
there's all
toying
those
around with a
strands.
point.
Yeah, all the strands, even the two paramedics who I thought were both great in the
Great.
beginning,
Great.
they almost felt like they were being given series regulars banter dialogue.
Say to her. I don't know what I look like. The serial little what's his face guy? Go with your gut. You got the release? No, didn't you get it? You know what? On second thought, maybe you better not go with your gut.
I mean, they were being given total Ziva McGee, like, hey, so I've got this date on Thursday. He's like, what do you think I am, Ann Landers? I'm not going to answer your question about these. Like,
Yeah.
I know, but you have more experience than me. I mean, it's like, it's not that we just have them there going, time of death is 5:03. What, like some
No.
very pedantic. No, we're inside their lives in media res. We have no idea what they're talking about, and it will come to nothing. We will never find out what happens on that paramedic's date, but
Yeah.
we know. And when Tony is asking McGee what happened on the date, and McGee is like, it's this private thing. And he's like, McGee, a gentleman always kisses and tells. Like, he's so wrong. And so there's this sense of when Gibbs fucks with the evidence, it's consistent with the tone of the episode.
Totally.
Where people are misbehaving. People are behaving
Yes,
incorrectly.
some people are misbehaving because they're
but
kind
they're
of
doing
like
it
truly
for the right reason, maybe. And
well, certainly
with-
Gibbs for the right reason. I mean, there's like a high moral thing there that's being explored, like what is and what isn't.
you get a head slap in this one.
Oh, I get a head slap, absolutely.
Going for coffee.
Oh, what was that for?
Alerting DiNozzo.
And Gibbs slaps his own head. Gibbs
Yes.
slaps his own head. So this
Oh my God,
is
wait,
like,
how geeky are we right now that we're just like, oh, and he gets a slap, and you get, and we're like, oh yeah.
I got a
It's this, like,
gentle slap.
fun- You got a gentle one. I got a hard one, and he gives himself the hardest slap.
oh, the hardest one.
Yeah.
Boy, I mean, you know how we've talked about some of the episodes in season 3 where we were like model behavior. We weren't really crazy about model behavior, right? That happened.
Yeah. I remember.
We had, I don't want to nag any of them particularly because they all have their little.
Oh, they all have
they're all
great
kind
moments.
of right, and they also are sort of they're different folks for different strokes for different folks, but
Yeah.
and moods. They're different mood pieces. But this one, I really felt across the whole thing. James Whitmore Jr. directing. I thought
Yep.
just a really strong and funny. The Zamfir flute stuff, silly.
Silly.
Totally. And also I felt like Ziva has gotten involved in the hijinks, even though she's judgy and but she's complicit in some, she's not like telling McGee, DiNozzo's behind your stuff and this is totally bullshit. She's like, I guess she's like, you shouldn't be doing this, but she's kind of enjoying that they're doing this. And
she's definitely the middle child. She's like right there kind of watching it all and like playing politician, but like I'm in it, but I'm not in it because I'm technically not doing it. Like, you know.
Gibbs wants you to, he knows that it's good for team unity. And there's a great scene when we're coming down from Jenny's office and we're all coming down and we're saying, well, Ziva gave in first. And you're like, I did not get it. And then, McGee's like, well, no, that's not exactly what happened. And he's like, and you, my loyal St. Bernard, held out for what, 30
20
seconds? Yeah.
Director kind of suckered me into that deal. Ziva caved first.
I didn't cave in. I was trying.
McGee next.
Yeah, boss, it wasn't what...
And my loyal St. Bernard held out till last.
And I'm like limping down the stairs and we're just
all
such
like, Dad.
a team of misfits, but you see the really clear delineation of character. And, of course we're overthinking this. That's what podcasts are for. But it is really beautiful to see that team coming down those stairs with, I have to say, a very attractive father figure. He's tough when he needs to be, but he's not so gruff and grim and stern and dour that he's not relatable. There's something about Gibbs in this episode that you feel the conflict, but you don't feel like he's impenetrable.
Yes, but you know what? And that's a really good point. I don't think...
He lets you in a little bit.
The audience is let in because we are still very much like, dad figure, we need to do our best. And then, of course, there's that moment when McGee says, until we die, like we'll do it until we die or something like that.
You had to say that in front of him? You had to say until you put that in his head?
Said, what is that? Yeah. So there's that moment, but he doesn't say no, or he just kind of stays there and like holds the silence, But you did bring up a really good point. The audience is allowed to see that part of Gibbs that makes him highly lovable. And the audience usually are the only ones that are allowed to see what most of these characters are really like, because a lot of those moments really take place within the sanctity of privacy moments, an elevator or this or that, and they're the ones that get to see it. But none of the team does. We just kind of sort of understand it.
When I think about this little podcast that we're doing, this little off-duty exploration of the times of NCIS back through that kaleidoscopic lens, when we're watching these shows, and I know that we've touched on this a little bit, but unlike, like if I was to go back and watch some other shows that I've been a part of, I would have different emotional responses and different memories and stuff. But this, particularly season 3, into season 4, there's something that happened. And I think that's really interesting that we're doing this season 3 exploration, because something changed in your life. Something changed fundamentally in my life. It was like the universe for me, and I think for you, shifted on its axis. Things would never be the same again. And so watching these shows, it's really kind of interesting to see. We have like a little scrapbook.
Well, do you remember that year, and I'm not sure if we talked about it, and forgive me if we have, to all the people listening, but
it was not the year of compassion.
No, it was the year of forgiveness, right? Or was it the year of compassion? It was the year of compassion.
No, it wasn't the year of compassion yet. That was coming.
Oh, the year of compassion was coming. Okay, got it.
Yeah. No, we were.
So this was the year of the free fall.
I think this was the year of jumping out of the plane and then going, oh fuck, a parachute.
And we're like, we've got a bunch. Just hold on. It'll come eventually.
Look for something soft to land on. Oh, look, a circus tent.
It did feel like that. But also like in the exhilarating way. You know what I mean? I mean, Have you ever done that? Parachute?
I almost did once. I almost did out in Long Island. It's right after I finished Dark Angel and was going through a little bit of a romantic, thing.
I was going to say, was it fueled by some sort of heartbreak, or by the way, the opposite? It was
heartbreak.
Which is like,
that was a very difficult time, and I sort of figured I should do things that would blow up any sense of that, that I should challenge myself. I think that that's the best way to say it.
How did it go? Did you ever jump?
Well, I spent the night before with the guys I was going to jump with, and we got so excited. We were doing shots of tequila and everything. And then I went back to my hotel room.
And then you could get up in the morning.
And I didn't get up in the morning. I
of
overslept.
course. You were like, you know what? If I just celebrate this moment, I won't have to do it.
If I would be the guy vomiting in midair with the vomit coming back in his face.
Oh, no. Or actually maybe passing out.
Nobody
and then, of course, somebody else would have to pull the chute for you.
I have a memory that you may remember.
Oh, God. Is it good or is it going to make me?
No, it makes me look like an idiot, which is probably the correct
I love
memory.
it.
Yeah. It's not like it's not like trying to find a truffle. I mean, a memory where I look like an idiot is a pretty, they're all over the place. They're like dandelions in the spring. So I remember that when the van blew up.
Oh no. Get out. Get out. Get out. Get out. Go, go, go.
And Larry Fuentes couldn't wait to blow up that van. And by the way, that was a real explosion. That's not fake flames. That is black smoke coming out of that explosion. Mm-hmm. And it is a real fire. That is a big, real fire. They blew the heck out of that thing. That day in the parking lot, because what they do is they shoot the first scene where the paramedics and everybody, and then they redress the set and we play the crime scene. But we were there for the explosion because they brought us to the location. So we were there. And I turned to you and I said, I'm going to write and direct and star in a movie that I'm preparing to do. And you were like, oh, you're going to write and direct and star. And I said, yeah, I've decided that's what I'm going to do.
Oh, God. And I remember, I think I laughed a little. Did I?
You laughed loudly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I vowed at that time never to do that because I
that's not it. That's not the story. The story is so infinitely deeper than that. Because I think we were like so absorbed with this process and we were just acting. I mean, not that it's nothing, because it was a lot and it was a load and, and we were doing long hours for people that don't know it. That season, I think before that, of course, you did longer hours, but we were still doing 17-hour days and, long hours. So we were spending a lot of time together. And I remember when you said that to me, I just remember giggling and being like, do you really think you can do all of it?
I'm going to design the costumes. I'm going to make all my own clothing.
Yeah,
I'm going to prepare all the food.
It's going to be just like a Michael Weatherly show. And I remember that was like the riff on, and it was just going to be the Michael Weatherly show. But how appropriate, because that was season 3. It was just so appropriate to think big. I
had some delusions of grandeur. Do you remember Corporal Merrill stuttering?
This about Billy, miss?
If you mean Lance Corporal Danforth, yes.
Yes, I do.
But on set, but when he wasn't acting?
No.
I think that was just a choice for the character.
No,
anyway,
it was written in.
I love this episode, and I would suggest to anybody who hasn't seen it recently, go enjoy this one. It's a rock and roll ride.
It's a really good one. And by the way, with the whole stuttering thing, he did have the first scene in which he actually apologizes for his stutter. Then, in the following scene, he doesn't have a stutter at all, which is very bizarre. But then maybe it's because he's in front of people and and that's where he feels comfort. I don't know. I thought it was a very interesting thing, and I think he did a really fine job.
Well, what we're going to do right now, Cody DePablo, is we are going to go and introduce our guest for today's episode.
Our very beloved Rocky Carroll.
Rocky 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Rocky the Rock, who was on a sitcom called Rock, actually. We'll get into that. Rocky Carroll, can we bring you in here? Where are you, Rocky? Get in here.
Doctor, how's your mother doing?
He was so out of his mind that he stabbed himself.
Right. Should have seen that one coming. Okay, and?
Tell him to leave us alone. Let us do our jobs.
Don't let me interrupt, Agent Donoso. Well, I see Agent Donoso's been keeping you entertained.
Let us watch Jaws.
Yeah, I can see that. Don't make me separate you three. Take the elevator. Could have made yourself more at home. Well, it's good to see you too, Gibbs. The chair was killing my back. I never wanted that kind of justice before. But since the other night, hell, that's all I think about.
Rocky Carroll, here's a few things people don't know about him. He was born in Toulouse, France in 1923. He has served in three world wars.
I'm 101 years old.
He has starred in over 4,000 episodes of NCIS. He has directed 622 as Rocky Carroll, and he has directed another 41 as Roscoe Carroll, and for reasons no one knows.
But by the way, when you said he was born in Toulouse, there was a moment. This is
You actually thought he was telling the truth,
this is
didn't
how
you?
nerdy I am. I'm so
Hi, Rocky.
Hey, guys.
How are you?
Rocco.
Cotita.
How are you? I miss you.
I'm crazy. I was doing all the dog and pony show yesterday. They had me at 6 a.m. I was on like Good Morning Scranton and like all this. I was just all over the place. So
Congratulations, 1,000 episodes
1,000 episode of which you've done what? 348? How many?
Yes, I'm in the 300s. And that's certified to get you in the Hall of Fame in baseball. I don't know about television, but
I
you
think
did
it's pretty
97.
close.
You did 97 Chicago Hopes. You were like you were about to get to 100, and they were like, and that's enough of you. And then I know you did another show called Rock.
I did.
Well, we'll get into it. I just want to say, first of all, I love you, my birthday brother.
And you and both of you. I mean, when they told me that you two whack-a-moles were doing a podcast and that I was supposed to come on and just chop it up and talk about absolutely nothing in particular except for all the, love and history and all that. I said, well, there's no way I could say no, because this is what we were doing this for many, many years. This is what we did between takes anyway. So
oh my God. There's so much. And it's funny because no one knows this, but we sat around those blue chairs forever.
Can we start with the beginning or begin with the starting?
Yeah.
Wait, I know there's a song in there somewhere.
Begin at the beginning, right?
There's a guy named Mark Harmon, and you knew him before we all knew him.
Right, because I had it put in a contract very early on that any show that Mark Harmon's in, I either have to join at some point later or be a part of. He didn't know that I had that stipulation in the contract. So imagine his surprise when I was on NCIS.
And all of a sudden you just show up. And by the way, I remember your first episode.
I know, but I want Rocky to tell the story about the toothpick.
Oh God. I mean, well, there's so many different angles on that, but what I do remember is, Harmon and I had worked together, just to, for clarity's sake. Yeah. He and I were both late additions to, Chicago Hope. It had already been established, it was the Mandy Patinkin show. And then 3 seasons later, Mandy decided that he no longer wanted to be the lead on a CBS drama, and he went off to greener pastures. And then they brought in me and Harmon, and we were together for 3 seasons on that show. And then we kind of lost touch with each other. The next thing I know, he was doing this show about some agency I'd never heard of.
And you had done a show called The Agency.
I had, indeed.
Which was a very good show. Sean Cassidy Productions, if I recall correctly.
Sean Cassidy was our executive producer, and it was about the CIA. And I think were it not for the attacks at 9/11, we might have stayed on a little longer, because after that, nobody really wanted to watch, because what was going on in the real world was exactly what we were doing. And it was, I think it was a little bit of sensory overload.
It
was too much.
Now you worked with, on that show, you worked with Will Patton. What an interesting actor.
Very interesting actor.
But there were some very talented people on The Agency, some very interesting people.
Gloria Rubin, Gil Bellows. It was a really good, interesting Daniel Benzali, who was from NYPD Blue. So who fancied himself as a lounge lizard. He was a singer. He was to see Daniel Benzali, who plays this kind of, Dick Cheney kind of character, like, he had a whole like cabaret thing that went through. That's another story for another time.
This is a podcast. We like those stories.
You started off in the theater, right?
I did. I was a stage actor. Classically trained stage actor. moved to New York and after college in the mid 80s. And I said to myself, well, this is going to be my life. I'm going to be a New York based actor. You know, it's whenever actors make, whenever we make determinations about what we're going to do, you know, like wait a year and see what happens. So I was like, yep, this is it. This is my life. I'm going to be a New York actor. I'm going to go to regional theaters and New York and Broadway. And occasionally I'll dip my toe into Los Angeles, California, if work presents itself. That all changed in about 3.5 years. I came out here, I did a pilot in 1990 and never went back.
What about Born on the 4th of July? I remember you telling me about that experience.
You know, what's so weird is that our director of photography, William Webb, he and I were in this, we were in that movie. He was Bob Richardson's assistant, the director of photography on that. Bill Webb and I were both in the same sphere, in the same room, working on the same film. And I don't think he and I probably spoke to each other once. So, you know, fast forward 20 some odd years later, you know, he's our DP on NCIS.
And he's not just a DP, right? And as a director of what? I think I said 642 episodes now.
646.
But for the people that do know what a director of photography is, William Webb isn't just a director of photography. He's a Steadicam operator. And on a lot of TV shows, a director of photography, DOP, will do, or DP, will do half. So you'll have two DPs. One will be prepping while the other's directing. That's very standard in the industry.
Not on NCIS. Yeah.
No. And then not only does he
I was just going to say, no, that's not what happened in NCIS.
No. Not only does he DP every episode, but he's also the Steadicam operator, which, you know, is really a huge amount of work.
It's insane.
And when Cote first started, she looked around one day and we were in the squad room and I don't know if you remember this, Cote, but you said, Shetty, I have a question. Who is the director of photography? And I said, that guy. And I pointed at Billy with the Steadicam rig on. And she goes, no. The director of photography is the very quiet man who stands by Video Village with a lens around his, you know, on a necklace and makes very quiet comments to the director about sort of how much time he needs to put in. That was not Willie Webb, and that is not Willie Webb.
Wiggly Squiggly Webb. That's what we called him because he was kind of all over, and he was like this squibbly little thing. And
he still is.
The thing about the beginning is that because I was not well versed in the world of like many cameras just kind of going all around you, and I came more from the world of that kind of focused one-on-one in the theater kind of a thing. I didn't, I don't think you ever get used to it, but I certainly in my first episode, I was not used to the idea that there was, you know, the cameras were set up and then all of a sudden you had this steady camera who would just basically just move all around you like some sort of fly and catch little bits of you and you and you, and you just never knew where the camera was going to be. So you had to be very focused about the thing that you were doing, and you had to maintain some level of eye line and some level of connection, even if the camera was going like boom, boom in front of you. And that was very, very challenging. But, you know, I have to say, he is very talented at doing all of it. And the Steadicam stuff that he does is pretty remarkable.
When you come from the theater as a stage actor, I really thought it was like the first couple of years of just acting in front of the camera. It was like one big hazing. I felt like this must be like what freshman hazing is like when you go to when you join a fraternity, because it's so, you come from the theater, you're stage actor. You're not used to, like, you know, you're able to look, you know, make eye contact with the person that you're speaking to. But in the world of television, there's a crew of about 30 people who are also standing right over, you know, on the other side of you. And sometimes, you know, rest in peace, our buddy Terry, the director would sometimes be standing on the set watching the scene. And as a stage actor, I just had to learn how to, like you said, how to refocus, because I'm not used to the crew being on the stage with you. I'm not used to the...
And also the thing that no one teaches you, especially, for example, in theater school and all that stuff, is that at some point, if you ever have the privilege of doing anything for the camera, that you would have to learn that as you go. It's like, instant instant soup or however you want to, it's like you just have to do it.
You got to learn the language. It's like you don't get the the Rosetta Stone version. It's like you're in the country. You'll figure out how to ask where the bathroom is eventually, because it's because you just got to keep doing it enough, and you learn. Oh, that's what that means.
But don't you think that in a way there's a little bit of ignorance is bliss in the process of that? Because I do think that not knowing and obviously having that kind of focus that you get in the theater, which is such a good school. But by the way, there's so many great actors that don't come from the theater, so it's like boo-hoo, whatever. It's like whatever works for you, it's fine. At the end of the day, talent's talent. And many people that, by the way, come from the theater and they try to transition into that, they go, what? And they just can't make the transition. So there is no formula that guarantees that you're going to be able to make it work, But it is a fascinating thing that you kind of go like, did you figure it out? And then you kind of go like, yeah, I mean, I had to, and
had to, because
how you figure it out and all of that. And
it's kind of sink or swim, but you're doing what you know, and you're like, oh my, you're giving it your all to a scene, and then you got to do it again because like you were in somebody's shadow, or there was a mic thing, and it's so frustrating because you're thinking, well, can't we just like, can't we just fix that in post? Do we really have to do it again because somebody's shirt was making a sound on the mic or whatever? But after a while, you start to, it's part of the language. You learn the language. I learned no matter how good the scene is, if I'm half in Cody's light and I'm blocking the shadow, we're gonna do this scene. We're gonna do this again, or we're gonna stop and read it. And you start to make those adjustments. And I realized over time, it's like I'm learning the language now. It's like,
but the funny thing is, you always say, well, I always say, my best work no one's seen.
Because it's on somebody else's coverage.
Because it's somebody else's coverage, or all of a sudden because you're, the cameras are not on you. Maybe you're going to try something different, or you're so not aware of what's going on and just so present that all of a sudden you're like, oh, damn it, that was so good. And you just kind of go, well, that's what it is. Sometimes you're lucky enough that that the camera gets it. Sometimes it just, it's a gift for somebody else.
I have a little NCIS-centric question, which is, did you watch this one at all? It was from season 3. We're talking about season 3 right now. And here's my question to you, Rocky. When you were coming onto the show, did you look at the previous, so seasons 1, 2, 3, and 4 were kind of weird.
They were.
But then Don Belisario got fired or whatever happened.
The creator of the show was asked not to return.
But wait, why do you say that it was weird? I want to know. I want to know about that.
Because the shooting style was much more haphazard and chaotic. And when Shane Brennan came over and took over in the beginning of season 5, it became much more classic. It became, the camera didn't move as much. They have something called an axis, right? So that is the line between two actors. And if you're on this side of the line, then the other camera will be back there on this side of the line looking back. And to cross the line is to go over on this side. And on the first 100 episodes of the show, we crossed the line. We would do jump cuts through time. We would compress time, jump things. For instance, in this episode we're talking about today, Gibbs walks out of the room and Denozo watches him walk out, and then they cut to the other side of the line and Denozo goes like that and Gibbs is at the top of the stairs like Mighty Mouse, like he's just jumped up.
The director needs to see you in her office ASAP.
And what Shane was always doing was a more classical approach. And I think Gary Glassberg expanded on that classic sort of shooting style. And it's become, the camera doesn't move as much in that sort of haphazard way. Right. My question is sort of twofold for you about that. So did you watch any of that before you got to the show and think, well, hold on, what kind of crazy show is this? And had you directed before? Did you have designs on directing? And what's it like directing now? That's the big thing.
I'm just imagining while you talking about all that, especially about, crossing the line and being on the wrong side of the line. I just have this image of Suzanne McRobert, like chain smoking because now like two-fisted trying to keep tabs on like which side of the line we're on. That's
and she was our script supervisor, Suzanne McRobert, and she's so good.
She still is the script supervisor.
She still is the supervisor.
She's so good.
And like Michael was saying about DPs, you know, in the outside world, in the world outside of NCIS, I've worked on shows where every episode there are alternating DPs and alternating script supervisors. So the episode I directed an episode of another series, which is no longer with us, but I had the DP with me for the entire prep week because he wasn't actively working on the show. I've never had Billy Webb and I the only time we get together on an episode before it shoots is the tech scout because he's busy shooting it. And when I came back, I was like a kid. I was like, you know, guys, they have 2 directors of photography on Magnum PI. They do all this stuff. They got 3 cameras going at the same time. There's all this stuff. And they looked at me like I had 7 heads and they were like, yeah, but I was like,
yeah, but we've been on for 21 years.
Exactly. So it was a very short conversation. They were like, we're glad you had a good time and you saw some new innovation and now let's get back to work. So, but it was, to answer your question, I remember when, you know, after my initial meetings with Charles Johnson and Shane Brennan, and this character was like we were going to bring in this character in, who was not director of NCIS at the time. He was maybe an assistant director. I forget what the title was. Mm-hmm. It was a 5-6 episode arc. And I think maybe 2 or 3 days, maybe a week before we started filming the episode, I woke up one morning and there was just a box of DVDs, a big box that said NCIS production. And it was a box full of DVDs of every episode from the last 5 seasons. And it was basically like, you know, good morning, Mr. Phelps. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, watch all these episodes. Oof. And literally, I'd watch them and I'd looking for sort of continuity in the making of it. And one episode was like, wow, they were like snowflakes. A lot of them were like, you know, just as far as styles and how things went and how the camera moved. And there was like sort of this, and I said, sometimes I felt like I was on a ride because the camera was like, well, almost every line there was like, you go from a tight size to the wide and it was like all the stuff that was going on. And I thought, okay, this is how it works. But I remember watching, you know, I was like, my homework is to kind of watch all the shows. So I felt kind of like I was caught up by the time we started filming, and I started, you know, I became a member of the cast. But I always felt like I was still doing it was kind of a new show because I felt like that there was no, you know, set formula, you know, per se, that I was able to kind of come in, that this season was into season 5, season 6, there was a new feel. Shane Brennan was now at the helm. So even though the show had been on for 5 seasons, you know, prior to me, I felt like I was coming to something that was very new in style and everything else. And it really was.
Well, I think for us, it was the same because, of course, you came in and you brought forth a brand new energy and and we had to redefine our identity as a group of people. And then we started gelling together. And I think that's what the show has always been, you know, the additions and the exits and how it morphs and how it changes. And
do you remember, Cody, what happened at the end of season 5? That's when it's when Jenny Shepard is killed and Mike Franks, they have a big shootout. And then we get in trouble and we have to go in front of the new director, and the new director sends us off to the far-flung corners of the earth. If I'm remembering correctly.
The season finale is that this guy who's like now the boss from hell basically assigns everybody to these like remote locations.
Yeah,
and
Proby gets sent down to the computer room. I get sent to Agent Afloat. We all get sent to these different things because we're being punished because we were supposed to protect the director of NCIS and she got killed.
And she got shot up.
Yeah, she also had cancer that was terminal, so, you know, that would have been Genozo's argument. Like, she was kind of going to die. But anyway, I want you to tell the toothpick story, and your friend Mark Harmon is such a great prankster, and I think it deserves so much credit for the levity in that situation and also the bonding in that situation, if you could share it.
Yeah, and you guys, you feel free to jump in on, but what I remember most is that, like you said, Harmon being the ultimate prankster, that seminal scene where, the entire cast is lined up in the director's office, and Vance is basically saying, I'm sending you into the wilderness for to punish you for your sins. And there's this big thing where everybody's being handed their sentence, so to speak. And we'd established that Director Vance had this habit of chewing a toothpick because our technical advisor, Leon Carroll, who my character was so aptly named after, it was an actual habit that he had, that he was, if you saw him, he always had this toothpick in the side of his mouth. So they gave that little quirk to my character as well. But I remember, and in this seminal moment, there was a very heavy, very serious moment where all the agents at NCIS were learning their fate. Harmon had instructed each one of you to conceal a toothpick in your mouth. And at the time so now the cameras are over the backs of all the other cast members, and it's my coverage, so the cameras are directly on me. So I'm looking into the eyes of each of you. And
it's intense. It's an intense moment, and you're delivering like a Rocky Carroll intensity.
And I'm giving it my best. I'm trying to lay it on thick. I'm giving it the blue steel as best blue steel as I can with each one, because I know the camera's on me. This is my moment. It's tight coverage. This is it, baby. And then suddenly out of nowhere, like each of the actors standing there suddenly flicks a toothpick out of their mouths that they've been concealing for the entire time, led by Mark Harmon. And Mark Harmon had prefaced this prank by saying, we're going to do, and I think people were a little hesitant because guys new to the show, let's not get him too ruffled. And I think Harmon may have said he says, don't worry, he's not going to break. It was basically kind of a bet that we're going to do this right on his coverage. He's the only one who's going to see it. It's the equivalent of kind of dropping your pants almost when somebody is, it's on their coverage. And, I'm proud to say that he was right. So by the time I get to the end of that, whatever that speech is, when I've banished you all to the wilderness, there's an entire row of actors standing there with toothpicks in their mouth that only I can see. And there's just this moment where, and for an interminably long period of time, nobody's yelling cut because they're waiting to see if I'm just going to fucking drop, right? So finally we cut. I didn't break. And then by the time when the camera stopped rolling, we all had a very big laugh about it. But I think Harmon's thing was, I told you he wasn't going to break. He's not going to break.
So true.
Rocky, I want to know something about your audition for NCIS, your process of getting the part of Vance. What was it? Because I think I remember asking you at one point, but I think it's just kind of vague and foggy in my mind. I want to revisit that.
Honestly, my audition for NCIS was my history with CBS. I never had to read any copy. I never had to. I literally.
So you were just basically handed a part. Were you just like, hey, offered a part?
I had a general meeting with Shane Brennan, Charles Johnson, and I always say to people, I only knew one guy connected to the NCIS universe, and it was number one on the call sheet.
That's not a bad connection to have.
And I had a great relationship because at that point, I had done, I think, 3 different series for CBS. And CBS, if anybody knows, if they like you, they like you. So, I mean, and there were a couple of cast members on the current edition of NCIS who also have a history of you can follow, Katrina Law, she was on this show, she was on that show. And I had a very great working relationship. Les Moonves would always, I had done 2 comedies, 2 dramas, I think, prior to this. So it was sort of, put him in a room, sit across from him. And if you like what you see and hear, he's already been greenlit by the studio and by the network. And then there's the Harmon that you never know. He'll never tell you, but I always tell people, it's like, it was Harmon who basically said, that I'm giving him the thumbs up.
And question, had you seen the show? Were you familiar with the show? Or were you like, oh yeah, that's one of those shows, but
I may have seen 1 or 2 episodes, but not enough to be, I'm glad they didn't quiz me on any of the episodes at the time when I was there. But not long after.
Welcome to the quiz part of our show, Rocky.
If you pass this, you'll get the part.
You know what? You taught me to recognize something that I think I first saw when I was an usher on Broadway watching actors hold the stage. When someone comes downstairs, either for a soliloquy or to just have a kind of small scene, right, down by the footlights or whatever it is, something where, or if you have to really stand deep back in the stage and hold everyone else while you give a full speech. It's
right.
not a monologue or a soliloquy, but like an actual, you're addressing the troops in Henry V or something. You in MTAC showed me how to hold that room. Now, for everyone at home who doesn't know and hasn't been in MTAC, there's rug on the walls. This is a very weird room. It's like a sex room from the 70s. It's a very strange kind of
screening room part, it's like a Robert Evans
romper room.
Part, where they would probably screen like old movies back in the part, a little bit of it, but it was supposed to be this, classified room where the world of NCIS would watch, the possible threats going on around the world. So
you did this thing, and I just remember watching you. You stood in the middle of that room. There's a giant screen in front of you, and you're interacting, and we would do live feeds. A lot of times now people act to green screen and they can't even see what they're doing.
Right.
But we would do live feeds, and Larry Patoker would make sure that everyone could see everybody doing everything. And that was really handy because you were acting with some actor who was out in the alley between the stages, set up in some fake Afghanistan with a video feed going right to the thing. But you were acting with a real actor and you're doing the scene. But I marveled at your ability to stand there. First of all, do you know what I'm talking about? And second of all, if you do know what I'm talking about, how the hell do you do that?
Well, I think I do know what you're talking about. And it's, it's kind of what Cody and I were alluding to. I think it comes from that's where you realize that whatever we learned from the theater, wherever that training that we learned from the stage, because you want to have the same impact on that person that's sitting in row DD, seat 49 at the very back of the theater. You want that person to have the same experience as somebody who's sitting in row B in the second row. So you're playing the scene, and you're delivering whatever it is you're delivering with your entire being, not just with your eyes, not just with your whatever. And it's like, if you can embody what it is you're doing, I can sit in the back row of the theater and still be impacted by it. So I think there's that's my sort of definition of, when you're center stage, you got to play the entire house. The people in the balcony need to be, you want to hit the people in the back row the same way you hit the people in row B. So I guess that's probably where that comes from. Am I making any sense with that, Cody?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it's so amazing. I think you're so good. Do you know, I just was playing golf with Dietzen over the weekend down at Pinehurst.
Yeah.
And we were talking about the similarities between acting and golf.
Because, I want to hear about this.
Well, because you can get in your head and you can get in your own way and you can lose your way. But when you're in flow and you relax and just let it happen, if you know what you know, it's going to go. But if you start second guessing your choice, or I should have done that, or, I mean, you know what I'm talking about, like, especially with on a drive or putting, you can yip the hell out of that putt.
You can think your way out of a good game. You can, it's so much the difference between a guy who finishes first in a golf tournament and the guy who finishes dead last. They're both great. They're both great golfers. They're both professionals. One of them just doesn't get in his own way. And I think it's the same thing with actors. And for me, I feel like my biggest attribute at this stage, as far as directing, I don't get in the way of my thing is for all the actors know, if I'm directing the episode, the only thing I'm going to give to you is the given circumstances, the here and now, the stuff that I think, the information that you need. when directors start running up after every take and start, it they don't understand. Sometimes, if you've hired an actor to play a character, there's a certain level of trust you've already said. Why am I going to tinker with your performance? It's like, I hired you because I thought you were the right person for the job. I thought you were the right person to play this character. And sometimes, especially in the world of television, where you've got writers. I was told that there were early days on NCIS where the writers weren't even allowed on the set. Now the writers are like, it's like having another director. It's like somebody, somebody's tapping you on the shoulder and saying, could the actor do X, Y, and Z? I said, maybe they could. Let's see if they do. So I mean, there's got to be.
Wow, that would be like such a different way of working today. I don't know. I mean, we came from the old school NCIS, right, which is the writers weren't there, and we had, in many ways, thank God, the liberty, the freedom to be able to sort of run with our characters and find them, and that's such a luxury. But if you have a lot of cooks in the kitchen, it's very hard, and you feel like you start wearing this very tight jacket where you can't quite move, and it becomes detrimental, I think, for actors, because they begin, you start getting a little stiff, And
what I started, I've tried to find creative ways to deal with that. I take every time I direct an episode now, the writer of the episode I take to dinner before we start filming. And I talked to them in, just very simple terms. And I said, sometimes I know you don't know sometimes when you lose an actor, or when an actor he's being inundated with notes and fixes, and he may be on the outside saying, yeah, sure. But on the inside, he's doing this. He said, yeah, sure, I can do, it's like, now you don't respect what I'm bringing to the table.
Or this, which is worse. I mean, if you got this, that would be great. But if you got this.
But I'm saying sometimes the directors, the writers and the directors don't know when they're getting this, because the actor goes, oh, sure, I can do it that way, or I can do it
and
that way.
By the way, for people that are not watching, this means middle finger, and then the other means just scary face. So you could get fear, you could get like anger, like F you kind of a thing.
And I've seen very talented actors who've been cast in guest starring roles on our show sort of, wither and wither on the vine, because they bring something to the table, because they did a great audition and everybody's telling them how wonderful they are. And then as soon as we get 2 takes in, all of a sudden people are like tinkering with, maybe this, maybe a little less of that. And so for me as a director, my biggest thing is I understand that every actor has a process, and every actor has a different process. And some actors, all you need to do is like, and yeah. Let's one more time. Do it. They don't need an earful of stuff. Some actors they love talking about from moment to moment. Then there are other actors who are just like, let me go again. I was like, yeah. Or you keep, I know what you're going for. Keep going. And I think as what they appreciate the most is, I respect you enough as an actor to stay the hell out of your way until you say to me, hey, Rock, I'm stuck here. What are we going to do? If not, my job now is basically to do damage control from all the other cooks in the kitchen who all want to, kind of tinker with things. So my remedy for that, guys, has been now lately is during the rehearsal process, I'll bring the writers in and we'll talk about the scene, and I'll ask the writers, hey, is there anything I'm missing tonally about what we're doing here? Because I say to them all the time, I said, nobody says anything during the rehearsal process. As an actor, I'm thinking what I'm doing is working. So now when I'm in hair, makeup, and wardrobe, I'm solidifying the choices that I've made based on the rehearsal that we've done. So if not a word was said about how a scene should be played or the tone of it or whatever, the actor says to himself, well, then it's up to me. Nobody has said anything prior to this. So imagine my surprise when we get to 2 takes in, all of a sudden there's this flood of notes from Video Village saying, do this, do that. So I've decided I'm trying to put a stop to that. I've said, because that's what derails actors, because actors have been working on it and they've tried to develop a process. And sometimes
the DGA might have something to say about it as well.
Well, sure. That's one really valid point, but
No, I wanted to ask Rocky before we end this thing about Gene Hackman. He's one of those actors that I was watching something the other day, and he was like, they said, how many takes do you like? And he said, I'll take 3. And they're like, oh, so you don't feel like you need to do it, like you're learning more and more. And he's like, no. And you always struck me like a kind of Gene Hackman style actor. What do you think about Gene Hackman?
It's very funny that you should ask me that question. I have a saying. When I was a young actor in conservatory in a training program, I wanted to be Marlon Brando. When I became a professional actor, I wanted to be Gene Hackman. Literally, as I grew older and evolved and understood kind of what the impact of how much of an everyman that he was, and that his sort of ability to just sort of be there and be present, and it was like, as I got older and understood what it is about this craft and everything, it was like, no, that's the guy you want to be. That's the career I want to have. And I was lucky enough to work on Crimson Tide with him, and it was sort of like, literally by then I was like, yeah,
Confirmed. You're like confirmed. Check.
Yeah, yeah, and he could literally make, sometimes the most subtle adjustment that would change the feel of the scene entirely. And you always felt like he was present and in the scene. And it made you work harder because you're gonna get smoked if you're not dialed in. He's one of those guys that's just gonna run circles around you. And you might not feel it when you're shooting the scene, but when you watch the final your dailies, you're like, he's kicking my ass. It's like, because it's not, he doesn't chew the scenery. He's just there. He's just so immersed in what it is that he's doing. And he's so confident in what he's doing. So that that became my roadmap. I was like, okay, scrap the Marlon Brando thing. That's Gene Hackman. That's the road I want to go.
Well, yeah. I think you are Marlon Brando and Gene Hackman. How about that? I'm going to make you a sandwich. You're a double stuff.
Well, Gene's right here, actually sitting across from me here, making coffee. So I'm gonna after this podcast, I'm gonna chop it up with him about that. He's in his 90s now. He's like sort of living in somewhere in New Mexico or forget where, but there was a picture recently of him, and I always had this image. He was kind of this bigger than life figure, and it's like I can't imagine 94-year-old Gene Hackman just sort of.
You know what he does on the weekends? He arm wrestles Robert Duvall. They just hang out and arm wrestle. Well, Rocky Carroll,
this has been
such
just
a beautiful man.
Why, thank you. I love you both madly.
I have such huge, happy memories of being on set with you. I always felt safe with you as an actor. I always felt like I was learning from you every single time I worked with you. So,
well, thank you,
Rocky Carroll.
Thank you, guys.
Rocky.
I love you. And anytime you need me, just whistle, because I'll be there.
Well, you never know.
Never been to Budapest?
Never been to Budapest?
I've never had a man ask me that. No. All right. Best of luck. Break a leg, you guys. I'm excited for your new venture. Can't wait to see it. And I'm going to try to finagle my way to see if I can do a cameo somewhere in Hungary.
Oh, that'd be fun.
It would be more than
like
fun. Yes. As long as you don't mind traveling first class round trip to Europe, it'll be fine.
Let me think about it. Not at all. Yeah. All right, guys.
Fast.
All right. Bye.
Right. Bye, Rock.
Hey, great job, Cody. I thought that was so much fun.
Oh, I thought it was really fun, and he's just so easy. You know what I was going to say about that? It's funny when he was talking about the idea of flowing and sort of finding yourself in a very kind of flow. You were talking about golf and acting and all of that. All I kept on thinking was, well, it's so much easier to flow when you find yourself at ease, and the people that are working around you and making all of that possible, especially your acting peers, your partners in crime, when that becomes the thing that's around you, that sustains you when you're going through things, whether it's whatever it is, and we all have personal episodes, but the idea of flowing and finding that ease really gets enhanced when you're around the right people. And I have to say this, because I've talked about this before with friends, and they're like, hey, I hear you're going back and you're doing the show with Michael. And I say, yes, I'm doing the show with Michael. And they're like, oh, how do you feel about revisiting this? And I said, oh, I think it's going to be so much fun. And we get a chance to really, how many people in the world really get a chance to revisit old characters that they worked on, that they really care for?
It's like going back to another, going back to high school, or living in an old apartment that you used to live in, or it's weird. Yeah.
It is weird, but also, and I remember saying one thing, which I really truly mean. I said, look, I may have good days, I may have bad days, I may have, but I said one thing. I said, but I have Michael. And they were like, yeah, I mean, but you worked with him for like 8 years. And I said, yes, but we've grown up and we're older and we have a different appreciation of life and the world and the work itself. And I said, I have Michael, and that to me is my greatest asset. But in a way, I do feel that. Like, if by any chance I feel like, if I'm having a delicate day, or if I'm feeling overwhelmed about something or whatever, I could just say, like, I mean, I don't mean to say, I'm just going to put it on Michael. No, but I do feel that I could come up to you and say, like, hey, man, I'm having one of those days. And when before maybe I wouldn't talk about it because maybe you just kind of, hey, put on the face and just pretend like nothing's happening and just soldier on. Like, now I feel like I could approach that differently, and I could just say, like, hey, I'm having this, and just allow it to kind of be.
And
I don't know if you feel the same, but that's how I feel.
I feel exactly very similar and have thought about it. I think one of the great lessons of getting a little older is that you understand, I have no idea what's going to happen.
No, and nothing's a guarantee. We know that too. You know what I mean?
But I know that all the people, these magical people we're meeting, all these wonderful, creative people that all seem in, it does bring me back to the NCIS mothership, to that sense of we're building something alchemical, something greater than the sum of its parts, something a little mysterious, something that we don't know. So
that's exactly how I feel. I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm really excited about it because the people that are surrounding it now, much like when we were reminiscing about, like, well, how do you find that flow and the ease of being just around people that allow you to do that? It's like we have this opportunity to flow in a different way because we're going to be surrounded with a lot of different creative people, and we're gonna see what that is. But that kind of new incantation can be exciting and thrilling. It's a mystery. It's a mystery.
Can I tell you one thing that I was thinking about the other day that I really don't miss and I don't like about certain experiences I've had on sets? And it's this one. When do you guys think we're going to be done with this? Because I've got somewhere else to be.
Yeah.
I have to say, and I remember somebody, maybe it was even William Webb saying, Billy Squiggly Webb. I think I might have said that season 1, and he was like, why do actors always want to go somewhere else? Why are you always looking at your watch and saying, I want to go home, or I want to go to this, or I have to be out by this time, or I have a heart, I think about that now and I'm like, yeah, I want to be fully inside the moment of what we're creating and not looking at a watch, not wearing a watch right now, part of my therapy.
Hi, you. Never did.
Because I want to be here, I want to be here and I want to be with you. I want to tell this story. But I want to experience life. It's not just about, we're going to have such a fucking adventure. It's going to be crazy. We got some fan questions. Carrie in DC says, was the ambulance explosion in this episode real, and were all explosions on the show handled the same way? And my answer, which I actually gave earlier in the interview, is the answer to that question is absolutely real. Larry Fuentes loved blowing things up.
Yeah. I remember at one point there was an explosion and I had something like stuck on my leg. There was something that blew up.
That lawsuit is still pending.
No, come on now. Nothing. I mean, it was obviously unintentional. It was a tiny little fragment of something that was stuck on my leg for a long time. But yes, they were real. They were very real.
I was just down in North Carolina, and this fan question comes from Kristen in North Carolina. Are there any downsides to being on the same show for a very long time?
Oh, I think that, at times you may feel like, of course, you've been there forever and ever, and you're like, oh my God, it's like being with your family forever and ever and ever. And at times you're like, I need a break. But just like you get those breaks, you still love those people. And, and with time, you do get the incredible appreciation for it, which I think it's the greatest part about having that perspective, the gratitude.
Yeah. It's a good attitude. The last fan question.
Do you
want to
give me your
Wilson
truth on that?
in New York? No, I'm not going to share it.
Not you. I plead the fifth. Bye you.
Yeah, I'm taking up.
I'm taking up. Bye you.
Wilson from New York wants to know, what do you eat on set? And this I will answer. Because
I think you're the one that needs to answer that. By the way, you just did a gun face. You didn't even know it.
So when it was table read day, I don't know if you remember this, but I would fill a cup with M&Ms.
I don't remember this at all.
Yeah, I would fill
But
a
you
cup
did.
with
Wait a minute.
Yeah. I would eat the
remember.
M&Ms, but I would drink chocolate. I would drink the M&Ms.
Yeah.
Because I saw the table read. I was very competitive about the table read.
It was your madness.
I came in white hot to those things. It drove Harmon absolutely bananas. I'm sure. I never talked to him about it, but I mean, it's easy to tell. I drove him bananas, and I probably drove every writer bananas because I didn't say the thing that they wrote, and I probably drove the other actors bananas because I didn't give anybody their feeds. But I was loaded on about 400 peanut butter M&Ms,
which, by the way, are my favorite.
And I would also go to the Crafty Truck. Oh, remember the Crafty Truck? And I would make myself some big sandwiches. And I would have like turkey and tomato and avocado and a little lemon, salt and pepper with maybe a little olive oil. Those were real good.
Those are real good. I remember having my avocado tomato sandwiches. Those were my favorite.
And I would not eat the catfish off the truck. That was the one thing I wouldn't do. Cody DePablo, Gibbs rule of the day, rule number 28.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this one becomes more important the older you get.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly it's important when you're young, but you just won't take advice when you're young. But when you're older, do you know what rule number 28 is?
Nope.
When you need help, ask.
Ooh, I think what you said is very true. And I think some people are still learning that the hard way. We could do an entire episode about this rule, by the way. We could call it, episode named rule number 28. That's what we should do, because then we can go on some sort of tangent about it, because I do feel like the world today, needs it.
Needs a little help, but it just has to ask. It just has
But people
ask.
need to acknowledge that they need the help, right?
You need to acknowledge.
Because there's
Well,
a little bit of that, sorry, I'm just going to add to this because it's just a fascinating topic, but because there is a lot of what I want you to think of me as opposed to what the truth is of me. And I think that is the world we're living in today, perception versus reality. And I do think that is another episode. Bye you.
Well, we have had another great off-duty podcast where we've, I think, solved all the problems of the world. Cody, where can I watch NCIS?
You can watch NCIS on Paramount Plus and CBS.
Next week on Off Duty, NCIS is called in after a group of teenagers discover the half-eaten body of a Navy petty officer in a park, but things take a turn. When Ducky reveals that the victim died after being stabbed and that he was already dead. The case soon descends into a nightmare when further investigation reveals numerous deaths in the park, which has Gibbs fearing the worst. A serial killer is on the loose in the park. Oh, shucks. Serial killers, my one weakness. It's season 3, episode 17, Ravenous. And remember what you have to do in Ravenous? Crazy stuff in Ravenous.
Okay, we'll discuss it.
Your fight scene in Ravenous with the serial killer
guy. That bridge
guy.
when we get there.
Do you sleep with the serial killer?
Oh, come on.
Oh, I don't know. Well, let's watch it. Foof.